Okay. So, how many of you saw any of the Google I/O 2025 session on Tuesday and Wednesday? Anybody?
Not at all. I was concentrating on meetings with UnityNet.
Okay. Um, if you watch in YouTube or watch any of the news, basically it restructured the whole AI situation here. For a long time, Google was sort of seen as a laggard in AI development. They were very cautious because they had a lot of fear. I think it was going to cannibalize their search business, but they sort of were forced into really doing it. And since Google was the one that really invented their DeepMind unit, really invented the current architecture of AI that everybody's using back in I think it was 2017 or maybe even earlier. That was sort of surprising. How come the inventors the furthest behind? But that all changed on Tuesday with a whole series of announcements that jumped Google into first place in almost every single category of AI out there. And that lasted for 2 days because on Thursday, Anthropic presented Claude 4.0, which uh, took over the lead in a couple of categories, but nowhere near as broad as what we saw with Google. Google basically jumped to the lead in every single category you can imagine. And we're going to be looking into that a little bit. We'll touch on the development in Claude as well. But in addition to all of the incredible increases of what you can do with AI, we have to recognize this brought us a dramatic step closer to AI doing everything. When we have had a lot of sessions where we talk about, okay, what if AI included this development or that development? Uh, uh, how would that change the whole game? How much closer are we to AI replacing all humans? And of course, what do we do if AI does replace all humans? Now, of course, we hope it ends up that AI replaces all humans and it's not AI decides to eliminate all humans, which if we get into the self-improving AI and it jumps 1,000 years worth of development in a couple of days, that's a real risk. But if we just look at the way trajectory it's evolving so far, um, we can have hope that it's just going to replace all humans, and then so the biggest consequence will be humans won't have any income, but they won't eliminate us. But we'll talk about how these new changes in AI bring us that much closer to AI being able to do everything, and what does that mean for the things we're doing? If we've had projects in mind and we're thinking, oh, yeah, I want to do this or I want to do that, uh, is the very thing we want to do, is the goal that we're pursuing itself obsolete? It's sort of like if you go back a couple of 100 years or 150 years and the somebody is saying, hey, my plowshare broke, that my mule is pulling this plowshare and the plowshare broke. And they send their farmhand out to, hey, go find me a new plowshare, go get me a new plowshare. So the farmhand's out trying to find a new plowshare. In the meantime, tractors are introduced. So by the time that farmhand comes back and says, hey, I got the new plowshare, well, who cares? We don't use those kind of plows anymore. So that's one of the things that I think we have to face with a lot of the stuff that's happening with AI, because it's like going back to the 1970s and 80s, maybe even a little bit into the 60s, when computing first came out. And almost all the computer applications were how do we provide the information to the human workers? For decades, applications were in support of the human workers. And then all of a sudden, people started to realize, well, I can actually automate the human job that was the information was being delivered to. And when they started developing those, they began to realize, wait a minute, why are we doing this? We created this system so it would deliver data for humans, but if the humans aren't there anymore, we don't have to go through all of that. We could just go direct and do it in one step. And so you saw starting in the 1990s and really accelerating in the first decade of the 21st century, that the applications have been more and more uh, directly related to the task, because we don't need the human. And that's what we're seeing starting to happening with AI, that a lot of people are seeing AI and saying, "Oh wow, look at what we can do with this," and oh, that's going to make the human's job so much easier. But yet, if we take a look at the modern work being done with AI, especially with regards to agents, the people that are doing that work are saying, "Oh no, no, the human job, we just incorporated that in the process, so the human job's not going to exist there anymore either. We don't need it. Why? Why would we want that human step in there if it doesn't add anything?" And in fact, because AI in general makes fewer mistakes than humans, it's actually better if we don't have the human in the process. So we have to confront that if these new technologies like were released this past week are going to accelerate eliminating the need for humans. Okay, so uh, we are 8 minutes after, so I'm going to get the show on the road. Anybody who's late can catch up by watching the video later on. So, ding, I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, and I declare this meeting of 24 May 2025 to be open. Our topics for this week, our discussion for this week is focused primarily around new announcements with artificial intelligence this past week, and what the implications of that are for so many areas of human endeavor. So this past week we had the major annual event of Google. That's Google I/O 2025, took place on Tuesday and Wednesday, and it was just like a machine gun rattling off advancements in almost every field we can imagine. And we're going to take a look through that. And then and everybody was declaring, if you looked in the YouTubes, everybody was declaring Google is the new king of the mountain. They have left ChatGPT in the dust. They've left everybody else in the dust, and they're the new king of the mountain. And then on Thursday, Anthropic, they announced Claude 4.0. And all of a sudden here, Google's time as king of the mountain in certain areas was replaced, and Claude exceeded Gemini 2.5 in some important categories, but only a few. The majority of the new announcements of Google still leave them way in the lead in certain categories. And right now, everybody is waiting for the shoe to drop from ChatGPT, from OpenAI, from Meta, and from Grok, X AI, Elon Musk's AI entry, that they're going to come out with something and try to steal the thunder. This time of year in May seems to be when that happens, when we get all the major announcements, and everybody's trying to outmaneuver everybody else and getting the attention of the press and so forth. Okay. Um, what when we talk about these advances in AI, AI people tend to look at AI in two ways. One is saying, "Oh wow, what can I do with all these new capabilities and new tools? How can I benefit myself or my business? Improve my marketability, if you would, and just do things from planning my vacation to doing a better job of creating, if I'm on the creating side, of creating stuff that it took 10 people to do before. That's the one side. What can I do? How can AI benefit me? The other side is people who are saying, what might AI do to us in terms of, oh, it may take my job and my income. It may um, devalue human to human connectivity, connections. It could destroy the economy. It could totally change the way society works. And of course, those are the more mild ones. It could create a whole new category of warfare that could kill us all. Or the AI could escape human control and on its own decide to kill us all. So that group is concerned of what are the potential dangers of AI, or what are the potential uh, uh, results of AI that could do things to us, and in some cases for us, maybe finding solutions to all the diseases that are out there, and making us immortal. Of course, some people look at that as a plus and some people look at it as a minus. So we have to get into that. So that's basically what we're going to talk about today. And before we delve in, I've sort of keyed up some examples here to show you. But before we get into that, comments in general about this topic related to the speed at which AI is evolving, and to implications and things we need to think about, or if you are saying, "Oh, AI can never replace humans in this way or that way," what your thoughts are on that. So please, let's not make this a monologue. So please jump in and add your thoughts.
Hey,
I
Bill,
think,
Stu here.
Yes, Stu.
Go ahead. No, no, let the other person go
Oh,
first.
Alia?
well, I just think that all this progress assumes that all countries are starting at the same level. So poorer countries will not prosper at the same speed as richer countries because they're starting off lower. So that's my view.
Yes, very true, very true. But it's not only a question of countries. Even in the United States, well, there's two aspects of it. The United States and China are the furthest along with the greatest penetration of awareness in the world. And it's surprising if we look at some of the countries in Africa or South Asia, we see they're quite a bit behind in terms of awareness of the broad population. Surprisingly, Europe is much closer to Africa in its readiness for AI than to China or the United States, which I think is going to cause a major problem for Europe if they don't reevaluate what's going on. But they seem to be more paranoid or afraid of AI and have really put the brakes on a lot of things, which is caused that. But having said all that, there's two levels. If we look at general awareness, we see in China and the United States, it's about 30% of the population is really aware of what's going on. But only about 5 or 6% really understand what's happening. So that 30%, I've heard of AI and I know it's about uh, doing things that humans are doing and it might have some impact, but they have no clue as to how fast things are moving or the kinds of things AI is capable of. And that's only 5 or 6%. And even in the United States and China, about 65% of the people are just totally in the dark. Either they've gone da 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 da, I don't want to know, or they just don't have any way to have access on that. So we have that huge, it's more than a digital gap. We can call it a digital IO gap or a digital AI gap there that we're going to have to think about going forward as things as the acceleration increases that gap. But that's just a fact of life for now. So Stu, yes, you wanted to add.
Yeah, as you know, I work with Rotarians, clubs, districts, and WashRag and the cadre, and I find that many members are not very interested in the use of AI to improve our projects, improve our programs. Um, and if I use the word AI very often, they start turning me off. So I'm using more traditional words like research and coaching and so on, and then feeding it in gradually. I'm wondering if you or others on the call have tips as to how to get people over that first hurdle so they start using it themselves and have the aha experience.
I'd love others to answer, give their thoughts on that. I just like to relay one discussion I've had with people in a developing country where they have a huge rural population that is just not aware of much of what's taking place technologically in the world in general. Their focus is more local. They have very few of their children even go to school at all. And we had a suggestion to have Rotary clubs outfit people in their club with a suitcase that would have a laptop, a projector, and a satellite connection to the internet, so that they could go into remote villages and set up a display where they don't really talk about AI or anything. They just set up a display where you might have access to the generative tools, like to be able to create images and be able to, let's say you've got a whole bunch of the kids in the community there come together, and you just say, "Oh, hey, say what kind of an animal you'd like to see," or something like that, and the kids say, "Oh, I'm looking for an animal like that," and bang, it appears on the screen. And then another kid says, "Yeah, well, what would it look like if it had 3 horns instead of two?" Bang, it's got 3 horns. And we called this the um, Setting Imaginations on Fire tour, so that we could go out there and these kids are just saying things like this, or they could say, "Oh, you know what? Can we create some music? I'd like to hear a song that says about this or about that." And we're using Suno or something similar here. Bang, it generates the song that they just asked for. And they're starting to think, my God, I can just ask for stuff and it just magically appears. So that was a discussion. And I still think here that sort of goes in the direction, so I think you're talking about, instead of going and talking about a whole bunch of high academic theoretic type stuff, is you just give people an opportunity to see for themselves possibilities that start themselves thinking about what could I do with this. That was the thought on that. But I'd like to hear from others. So if others could please give some thought as to how do we help people who maybe have no exposure, so they really don't know, and that causes them maybe to be afraid of AI, and so they just try to block it. So thoughts there. Come on, guys. No one? Uh, okay, back to the thought in general about the whole topic of the advances in AI, the speed that it's going on. Um, or do we just want to jump in and take a look at some of the demos of the kinds of things that are now possible? What are your comments on that, please? That's an either or. So you can't say, I don't know.
I'd like to see the new capabilities.
Okay. So that's what I'm going to do. Then I'm going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen here. And let's see, where do we want to start? Oh, okay. Actually, I'm going to start here, not with the sharing. I'm going to start here with a description. The last few meetings, I demonstrated here how we could use deep research and a thing like Notebook LM, which is where we collect all of the sources or many, many sources about some topic, and then we are able to dialogue, interact with this base of knowledge base, the sum of all the knowledge on a topic there in a lot of different ways, including the ability to convert the sum of all that knowledge into an audio podcast that would explain the gist of what that body of knowledge is all about. Um, and so we demonstrated that. And unfortunately, she's not here. I was hoping we would have one of our younger participants with us to actually relay her experiences because she's been actually trying stuff out. And so I'm pretty sure I mentioned some of this. She was able to take her school textbook on one of her subjects and load the entire textbook as a PDF into Notebook LM. And then she was able to have a dialogue, a typewritten dialogue of questions about anything that's in that book. And in another case, she was able to load a Shakespeare sonnet into Notebook LM, have it create an audio podcast about everything that's important about that whole Shakespeare, the style or the story and everything else into a podcast. And while she went and took a walk, it was explaining everything about Shakespeare that would be of value to know for an exam into her. So it was explaining. So it wasn't cheating here and doing the test for her, giving the answers. It was deepening her understanding of what's important about that particular sonnet. And as she was walking, she was able to ask the podcast questions verbally. Just say, well, why is that so? Why do you think this is that? How come it didn't go in this direction or whatnot? And the two hosts of the podcast would stop talking their standard spiel and answer her questions. And that enabled her to really deepen her understanding even more. So that was the situation, a situation of what one could do from the perspective of learning at that point. Uh, does anybody want to make any comments about what that means, what in terms of providing people with a learning tool about some subject? You just grab all the sources of knowledge on a subject and you're able to go in depth. You can even ask it and say, create a study guide just with a one click, create a study guide. How do I learn everything that's important to learn about this topic? And I can narrow that down to all the sources or just one or two of the sources, and really control that way. Any comments about that kind of a learning tool in general? Yes, Stu.
I'd like to hear from others. But as you know, I've been using Notebook LM for global grants, and it's very valuable. I want to replicate it for others so they can do the same. And then eventually get to a place where any lay person can walk up to this system and start asking questions and learn as quickly as they wish. That would be really valuable. Waiting for the time to find an expert, to get preliminary advice, think about it, apply it, go back for more questions, more emails, more reading is it is a method that works, but it takes a long time and it's never complete. If we can do this in a more complete environment that's self-paced, it'll be tremendously valuable.
Regarding that ability here to share the content, I don't know. One of the concerns is here you want to give people the ability to use what you've got there, but not change stuff in a way that could make it less valuable to others. And I saw this last week. I don't know what I did somewhere along the way, but Google sent me a copy of a Notebook LM, which I'm sure they sent to thousands and thousands of people that had the whole summary of everything they announced. And I was able to go in and ask all kinds of questions about the stuff they announced on Tuesday and Wednesday. So how they did that, it could provide, because I can't imagine they would allow me to go and make the kind of changes that
Right.
would make it less valuable to others when they made that so widespread. Uh,
I know the view only mode allows people to converse in chat, but not
yeah.
change anything else.
Well, actually, then that might be the answer because that's what you really want. The only downside to that is sometimes somebody is asking some very valuable questions. I don't know if they can take their answers and promote those to notes, for example, and if those
Right.
notes become visible to others. And that might be something here that we can suggest to Google, to the team there. Hey, you should be able to have a way to be able to give maybe selective permissions to people to add to notes. Uh,
Yeah.
that
It
that
would be great. Yeah, it would be great to let them add personal notes that work for them, and then the group could observe those or not as they choose.
right.
And
Yeah.
likewise, to have multiple audio overviews, to have a single audio overview that's always replaced and always just two voices without interruption, that's pretty limiting.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Aaliyah, were you going to add something there?
Yeah, I was just going to say that basically this makes knowledge more available to a lot of people. So that's a shift of power from the few to the many, which is why
Yes.
it's resisted, especially in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my opinion anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Joan, you were unmuted for a minute there. Were you going to add something? Joan, did you want to add something?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Huma. Glad you could
Hi.
join us. Huma, we're
Yes.
just talking. I just was describing here some of the things with Notebook LM that
Okay.
ways people have used it to learn. And I just asked for comments about how valuable they see Notebook LM as a learning tool. Do you want to add something to that?
I think up till now, since last 2 months, what we are talking about, it is one of the most useful learning tool and a best research tool. Number one, which can summarize, which can give us the mind map, and which can summarize so many research papers in one go and one click.
Hmm.
So I think it is one of the most useful tools
Hmm.
up till now.
Okay.
Obviously, you cannot ignore ChatGPT and other helps as well. But specifically when it comes to research and summarize, and when it comes to podcast and conversation, then adding the conversation, I think Notebook LM is on the top.
Okay. Now, one of the things here that really accelerated Notebook LM that brought it to everybody's attention is this ability to create the audio overviews. As Stu pointed out, it would be great if we could create multiples so we can create different audio overviews for different perspectives into that knowledge base, or for different audiences and tailor it in those ways. But
Yeah.
this is something that is mind-boggling. And I think two things that are underappreciated there. One is the ability to customize the audio overview. So you can customize it so it only will take information from some of the sources that you provided, or it will only seek out the information relative to a subtopic or a particular perspective or aspect, or create the overview for a specific audience. So it might say, "Oh, I want you to make this for something that would be understandable by 8-year-olds," or "I want you to
Yes.
make this available that for a pitch for a startup company to venture capitalists," and so forth. Now, this and that's one of the two things that are underappreciated. And you have to take some time. You have to really think about, how do I want to formulate my customization instructions, and that is something where it may pay to go out and go to something like ChatGPT and say, help me make customization instructions. Here's my purpose. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish with this audio overview. What would be a good set of instructions to make sure it's focused on exactly what I'm trying to get? So that's one possibility there. The other thing that's greatly unappreciated, because it's in beta mode, I don't know, and maybe it's only available to pro users, is the interactive aspect. The aspect that you can be listening to this podcast of two hosts talking about whatever it is you wanted them to talk about, but you can interrupt them with more detailed questions. And that's what this young girl in Italy did when she was preparing for her Shakespeare exam, that she was able to just interject questions and get really useful answers to exactly her questions. And that has some really powerful implications there. So, what I'd like to do is, Joan, do you want to add something to that? Okay. Okay. So now we'll go back here and look at some of the things that was introduced that unfortunately, yes, they announced, but there are a couple of demos out there. There's a 1-minute demo and a 10-minute demo, but unfortunately, I can't find these demos, the videos for the demos, but they're out there somewhere. And that is, they're adding the ability for you to create not only an audio overview, but with one click, generate a video overview
In Notebook.
in Notebook LM. And my understanding that video overview is not just showing now the two talking heads that are doing the podcast, but it will actually look at what they're talking about and generate images or video snippets of that explain what they're talking about. So I saw there's some examples here that I think are related in some of the demos I'll be showing in a minute, that where somebody is explaining here the Pythagorean theory for figuring out the lengths on a triangle, for example, or for walking somebody through how to do long division. And
You are talking about Pythagoras.
what's that?
You are talking about Pythagoras.
Yeah,
What you are talking
Pythagorean.
about? Example.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pythagorean.
It's a
Pythagorean
tongue
theorem.
yeah, exactly. Okay, you guys say it because that's too much of a tongue twister for me.
That's okay. That's okay. We understand.
So at any rate here, just imagine the implications if you can just click on this thing and it all of a sudden here walks you through with images and everything to
Right.
explain some complex example. And that's that's really now creating a new level for education. So if
Exactly.
every individual student is able to go and say, I've got this podcast. I want to create it. I say in the custom instructions, I say please explain the first segment of chapter 14, and it makes a podcast today on the first segment of chapter 14. But if it's doing that, showing you the images and explaining the images, perhaps with automation, so arrows pop in here, or you get a comment added in there. Uh, what now we're talking about individual education to the extreme, because you're talking about being able to provide individualized custom instruction to anything in an instant. That would be pretty powerful. Would you agree?
So, yes, fabulous. Bill, I don't see the video in the Notebook LM yet. Is there a release date?
Uh, mm, I don't think it's released, although they said it's being tested by trusted testes. You know, all these they have a
Right,
small group of people they used to test stuff out before they even release it in the beta. So, but I would
right.
estimate we're talking only a few months.
Bill, when you do a note or a new note, at the bottom it says convert
To
to
source.
source.
Yes.
What does that
Okay,
mean?
over on the left-hand side, if you're in a
Yeah.
laptop, there's the sources, and you can add sources, right? You can go up and say add source, and you can add another YouTube or another document or a website, whatever, to the body of knowledge. If you click on let's say you asked in the chat mode, or you just typed in yourself something here that came to mind. In other words,
Oh,
the
okay.
observing what's going on, something came to your mind, and you created a note, and you said, "Well, I want that note to influence the summary of the body of knowledge going forward, because that recognition that I came up with." Was not covered by any of the existing sources,
Okay.
right? So then you promote it to a source, and then you might have to click the refresh for the middle section for the chat section on it, and you would probably have to redo your mind map and redo any audio to have it
Hmm.
include that new knowledge of that note uh, going forward.
Okay.
So it lets you grow. If
Good work.
you're a researcher, for example, doing doctoral
Yeah.
work or the like, this is invaluable because your whole purpose of doing that is to gain new knowledge from whatever knowledge you can find. And as you find new knowledge, you want to get that added into the body of knowledge so that now you can build on top of that new sum of knowledge. So it
So
could.
one interesting uh, I thought I would try this one kind of because you did it before too, about trees.
Mhm,
And it named it the compendium of trees. And I was like, okay. And the sources were really great. And I validated them and everything. And I did the mind map and even get the note for the mind maps.
mhm.
The one thing that I saw was that there was no reference to the FAO reforestation program.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, that's really odd because that's a pretty comprehensive program.
Yes, you have to watch if did you use the discovery tool to
Yes,
find the
yes.
source? Okay. The discovery process will only grab 10 sources at a time. So that means there could be an awful lot of sources out there that are not covered. This is one of the reasons why I tend to go and I'll use the discovery tool, but before I usually will go to Gemini Deep Research. And in Gemini Deep Research, I'll go and look there because it will go out much further. I did one just recently on universal basic incomes, and I think it did 290 something sources that it reviewed and pulled its knowledge. And because it shows you where, then I was able to take the results, the resulting 40-page plus report that came out of the deep research. And with a one button, you can add it to Docs. It'll make a Google Doc out of it, and I add it to Google Docs. Then I go back to Notebook LM and I say add a Google Doc. And it's usually the run right on the top, and I just have to click on it, and that brings that in. So now I have the sum of all those 290 something sources that I can then add to that body of knowledge. And in some cases, there you can then go in to in the chat mode and say, okay, what specifically about the FAA report that is covered? What sources is that coming from, for example? And then you can go back to Discovery, and in Discovery you can put in your request. I specifically am looking for sources that would have information about that particular program, for example. And it will try to just add those to whatever number of sources that you already have. Right. So it's getting better and better in that regard.
Bill, what engine is Discover using? Is it a simplified version of Gemini?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Not
I
2.5 full.
I think it's using 2.5. Yes. In
Okay.
fact, I think I saw a note to that effect that one of the upgrades that was done about 3 weeks ago, I think it was that they upgraded Notebook LM to be using 2.5.
Okay.
Okay, so now some of the other changes here, I think this creating video overviews is going to be fantastic. One of the things that I think would be very valuable is if you could um, just talk to the chat mode and not have to type. I understand within 3 to 9 months we can expect that to be here. And that would give the capability. You could be taking a walk and say, uh, because of some answers of an exchange that you're doing, you could say, "Oh, could you add, go out and do a discovery and add sources from that mention this or related to that or whatever," or that you're able to go and do things like say, "Oh, hey, promote that to a note or promote that from a note to a source," just verbally, and not have to be sitting in front of a laptop or working on your cell phone and trying to hit the right buttons. Okay, so now let's look here and see some of the things that are coming because a big part of the announcements from this week were Google bringing features that were available in one of the tools and merging it with the features in other tools and uh, making new things possible that maybe weren't so possible before. So let's go out and take a look here. Uh, which one first? Okay. I'm going to go, even though it's maybe not as closely related to some of the things we've been talking about, but it's something that is really captures people's imagination. So let me go and see here. Let's flow. Uh, and flow. Okay, so this is for the audio, and this is available now in AI Studio here. I'm just going to play this, and you'll get a sense for what it is. This is their new video generator.
This is amazing.
They're watching the north exit. Use the service tunnel.
All right.
Say it loud in Westwood. Drink, knife, ball, drink, shoes, ball, spoon. The sum of the squares of the two shorter sides is equal to the square of the longest side. This ocean, it's a force, a wild, untamed might. And she commands your awe with every breaking light.
Yeah, I'm going to let this continue in a second, but I just want to point out that what you just saw, you saw him speaking, but if you noticed in the background, you heard the waves.
Yes.
So it's the whole thing, if you would.
And that can be done in different languages.
It's amazing. And today I watched this Mission Impossible.
VO3, it's the
New
one
one.
for me. It's the one you need. You'll see.
Final checks complete. Technician Davis, are we ready to make history?
From Earth, you have. Incomprehensibly. Advance to round 2.
Peely, you've got chalk on your forehead.
I've got chalk more places than that. Left behind a ball today. It bounced higher than I can jump.
Oh, what manner of magic is that?
Okay.
How long were the word prompts to develop these?
This AI tool
Hold
is
on, I
called
just need to make sure.
AI. You can create unlimited
The
AI
sets are
images.
Okay.
free. They're not free. They're asking for money.
Okay. Yeah. The one thing that's important right now is VO3 is currently only available to Ultra subscribers. Okay. Ultra is a new subscription level that they brought out. So the Pro is $20 a month. The Ultra level is $250 a month. Okay. Now, however, there's a couple of things here. Right now, they've got a special that you can get 50% off for 3 months. And they also, I think the first month is free. So you can get in there and try stuff and test stuff and get a sense for what it's going on. The issue is going to be this thing is so good. What you saw, all those different background sounds and that audio is just literally a couple of lines. There's one of the examples in there. It actually has the prompts that resulted in those. Some of those prompts are like one sentences long and it generated the kind of things you see. And there's now some people out there going crazy, and you can find YouTube sites that have like 60 videos, VO3 generated videos, but it generates the sound. You can give it the exact text you want it to say, or you can just say what you want it to speak about. And but all the other scenery, the background scenery, and the noise related to that, it just makes it up and generates it. So the thoughts from some others. I know Huma, you'd seen some of that before, and I know some of the others have. Uh, some of you had not seen that before. The idea that you can now create such realistic video with
Yes.
sound, with audio
Audio.
in one
Bill,
click.
I have just mentioned twice that today I have watched Mission Impossible, the new one,
Uh-huh.
right? And why I was mentioning since morning, because I watched it in the cinema on a big screen, and all the effects are just more than this new app, this Google Flow. The effects are surpassing all the effects of Mission Impossible. Honestly speaking.
Yeah. And so this is going to have, and I think this is where the video overviews in Notebook LM are going to come from. The fact that in literally in 2 minutes, that in
Yes.
2 minutes I can create a video snippet like this, that's what's going to um, enable them to go and say, fine, now, I'm going to create the video overview, because they already had the text from the audio overview, if they
Yes.
were able to do that. And
Mm.
so, and we know how to create videos, So now putting that all together to create this, I think this is the technology that has made that possible.
Exactly. And I think the future of cinematography and the future of photography and film will not be the same after this.
Yeah, there's a segment out there. I haven't had a chance to watch it, but it said
Okay.
the end of Disney. Because
Yeah, yes,
if you're
yes.
able to go and now, you might say, well, they can only do like 8 seconds at a time or whatever.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so let me show you our next little demo here.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Noah from the
Oh,
Flow teams. I'm going to give you a quick
hold on.
walkthrough.
Let me restart this.
Hi, I'm Noah from the Flow teams. I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of what Flow is and how it works.
Right.
Okay, hold on.
Hi, I'm Noah from the Flow teams. I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of what Flow is and how it works. Flow is a generative video tool co-created with filmmakers to help them create better clips and scenes using AI. The entire tool is a combination of Google DeepMind's most advanced models, Bio, Imagine, and Gemini. So let's jump right in. This is the project view where all of your projects live. It's really easy to scroll and look through everything you're working on. When you click into a project or start a new one, all of the generations for this project will appear as you make them. Let's focus here on the prompt box. By default, it is set to text to video. You can type something in and you'll get a video back.
It's amazing.
There's a drop-down menu where you can switch between different modes. Let's explore frames to video. In each mode, you'll see these little chips that give you specific options for that mode. You have the option to use a first frame, a last frame, or both. This chip opens your ingredients drawer, which is a collection of previously used frames that you can select to reuse. You can also either upload or generate an image to use as a frame. Another chip here is where you'll find camera controls. You can select the camera icon and add a camera move into your generation without having to describe it in the prompt. You also get a little preview of what that camera move is. Now, let's take a look at ingredients to video mode. This is similar to frames to video, but instead of using the image as your first or last frame, you can select a few ingredients to combine in one scene and add a prompt of how you want them to interact in the clip. As you continue to use the same ingredients, you'll see how easy it is to achieve character, location, and object consistency across shots. Now that we have a clip that we like, let's bring it over to Scene Builder and make a little sequence. You can hover over the clip to see the button that says Add Scene. That automatically moves you into the Scene Builder. Here we are in the Scene Builder, where you can put multiple clips together to create a scene. Let's take a look at some of the ways you can do that. This feature is called Jump To. It uses the power of Gemini to understand how your previous clip ended to seamlessly generate the next one in the sequence, guided by your prompt. You can use these handles here to trim the clips in your scene. Use this plus button and select Extend, and add a prompt to extend the clip that you are working with to make longer scenes. There's another plus button here above the playhead, which allows you to save a frame for later in case you want to generate more clips starting or ending with that frame. Once you have all of your clips generated, you can also rearrange them in the sequence with this button. Then you click here and download your scene. So that is your quick introduction to getting started with Flow. We're incredibly excited to see what you create.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what do you think about that?
Amazing. I'm
For
just
people who like
like,
to make videos, it's a handy way to make snippets and then assemble things. That's not an area I delve in much because it takes so much time, but it is cool.
Well, I think
I remember watching a movie called Wag the Dog.
uh-huh.
and how they
Okay.
used and how they use imagery to project a message. That's what I was thinking of when I saw it. But wow, imagine being able to do that for students, especially, like
Exactly.
yeah.
Right.
I
Now,
would
now,
I
now
would
the
like
thing,
to add one thing here,
yes.
Bill. My point with reference to all that, whatever you had shared with us, and all about the uh, change scenario with the help of AI, it's okay. It's all doing wonders, and especially in the classroom, in other walks of life, it's applaudable. But my concern is related to the prompts. For example, if we with the help of these prompts are in a position to generate the things and the ideas and the stories according to our own choice. So in a way, obviously we are aware of the current history. We know this is the reality, and it's in the coming years of life, it's going to be a sort of distortion of reality. It may be masking the real truth and stories pertaining to history, pertaining to facts, pertaining to the like real ownership of some of the facts. Right. Few days back, I was watching a video that was pertaining to the historical facts of Pakistan in the context of Pakistan. Right. Some of the images were added up as per the commands and instructions of the prompt. And as a person, I know this is not reality, right? In the coming years, when after 2 or 3 decades, the people will no more be here, and the coming generations will be accepting the same things as real fact. So it is something like a sort of threat to the real facts of history or real scenario of history which are taken place. So there should be some sort of limitations in case if we are just going to add something new which is not a part of history, but with the help of these prompts it's been added. Then there should be certain instructions or certain additional column to be added where the description should be there. This is not reality, but with the help of certain prompts and some commands, it's been added as a story or something fictional or something like that. So
Yeah.
this is my concern, and
Yeah.
I was wondering in the coming years, after 2 or 3 decades, it's going to be a big problem
Yeah.
for the
There's been,
generations to come.
yeah, Google's been a lead in finding ways to mark generated content, whether it's images, video, music, whatever.
Yes.
And so it has almost like a watermark in there to be able.
Synthesis is I think synthesis is the one which can detect that it is AI generated or not.
Yes, well, there's those that detect, but the producers of the tools that enable you to make it are working to make ways so that they embed inside the content itself something that says where it came from, so that you'll be
And
able to
even
know what's correct and what's false.
exactly, and but still, it's adding to confusion. Few days back, when Donald Trump visited Gulf, right, and some of the images, some of the things and speeches were there in the air, and these were not the ones which were uttered by him. But people got confused. Some of the people who knew that yes, this is the AI generated content, but some people really started accepting it as a reality. Oh
Yeah.
yes, this is what you might have said.
Right. Well, we have that
So
problem right now. If you recall, about 5 years ago, during Trump's first term as president, they came out with this idea of alternate truths. So that,
mm,
hey, just because the world says this is true, doesn't mean we have to believe it. And therefore, Trump felt he could say anything, and his truth was just as valuable as what the whole rest of the world thought. And so, yes, this is the problem, a major problem that we have. That, for example, the people don't believe the news anymore. People don't believe anything pretty much anymore. There's a lot of people that are skeptical, independent of anything to do with AI. That we it's not so much that we don't believe things anymore, but we don't believe each other anymore. We
My
don't believe our
keep
fellow
watching.
humans.
Hmm. My advice is to keep watching BBC and CNN for authentic news. That
Well,
was
don't, yeah,
great.
but
but
you
the
got to
thing,
watch out.
no,
That's exactly
but
CNN
still,
is
some of the
exactly one of
things,
those that the Trump administration says are liars. So, it's
but still, some of the things which are the part of history, And with the help of prompts, some new ideas are concocted, some of the new images and people are added to give the impression as if they are the part in the coming generation, in the coming the decades. These people, the new generations, will not be able to identify who is the real one and who was there to make this thing possible, right? So this is my fear. Like history and the facts of history would be distorted.
Yeah, no, you're right. This is going to be a huge problem, and I spent here a number of hours yesterday, literally debating with AI because AI has got certain built-in biases, and it took me a long time because I had to explain everywhere where I disagreed with it. I'd have to explain why and then it would say, "Oh, you're right," but it would only accept and it would still repeat 90%. The thing I didn't explicitly say, that's the point I disagree with. In the next iteration, it would still go back to the other nine, and it took me so many rounds of discussion to get the AI to agree uh, to uh, to the entire sequence of things I was disagreeing with in the end. And I started to read the new report, and it looks pretty good, but I haven't completed it yet to see whether it's still. So potentially here, this could be an opportunity if we can get students to realize that, or people in general, that just because it's in the a deep research answer doesn't mean it's true, because even if you curate the sources on it, those sources may include different opinions and on things. So we've got to be careful in that regard too. And then the risk that we have with things like Notebook LM is that people who are looking for that echo chamber, who are looking and saying, I don't want to hear from anybody who disagrees with me, and so they can load up Notebook LM with just people that agree with their opinions, even if that's a very extreme perspective. Now they're getting reinforcement on that extreme thinking that they might have. Yes, Stu.
Yeah, not only reinforcement, but an extension so that it spirals upward. I want to switch, if I can, topics to GEMS,
Mhm.
how and automation of uses of AI. How can the Google platform um, create some tasks that I could then transfer to someone else and say, here's a series of steps that it will do for you using the Notebook LM platform.
Yeah, actually, here they did a big presentation on that. I'm trying to think of what they called it. They didn't use the word. They didn't use the name gems, which gems are like custom GPTs, where you go and you've basically got custom instructions and a prompt, and then you can just refer to that almost like a function by name. But I think they said AI agent or agent AI or something like that, and they presented an entire series. I did not load up any examples on that because the approach to agent thinking to build agents and things like this is a little bit different. Uh, but I think I shared with a number of you via WhatsApp. An example that happened to be on the ChatGPT side, where someone wanted to learn to prepare to take an exam at a certain point. And so they went and did a deep research to say, okay, what are all the things that I have to learn about this particular topic to prepare for the test, and give it to me in a dependency sequence of what I have to learn in what sequence, and break it down into the individual learning points. And then they went in to tasks, and they said somewhere along the way they created different kinds of tasks. So some of the tasks were instructional. They explained things to you, and some of them were assessment, where it would test your knowledge of a particular aspect. Then they went and created uh, a a part that's a review that it based on your answers and based on the kinds of questions that you asked, it would constantly reevaluate your mastery of the subject area. And it would literally day by day or usage by usage adjust the learning plan so that they would be able to complete the learning by the specified date. So and if your questions demonstrated that perhaps you didn't really understand something that it appeared you understood 2 days ago, it would modify the learning plan so that you would that it would reinforce or go deeper into that particular aspect. I thought that was pretty amazing. That whole thing was done with with an agentic um, approach. So if you look through some of the links that I sent, you probably should be able to find that example that showed that. And I think I put a little text with it to say that that was there. I will try to refine that and maybe add it to our emerging technologies WhatsApp. I think I have it in there, but it's about a week old or 2 weeks old now, so I'll look to re-add that. But that might answer Stu some of your questions on that.
Thank you.
Okay, now where are some of these other aspects going with this? Let's take a look. So we see now, hey, we can do this video stuff that's going to be pretty amazing. Okay, let me see. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, so this is the story of somebody. They're using the Project Astra, which is giving video together with voice, so you can use your camera, but also some of the other capabilities that are there. And so let's just play this and get a sense for how this works.
I'm here with the latest research prototype of Project Astra, and we're going to see how it can help me fix my bike. Hey, go online and look for a user's manual for a Huffy mountain bike.
I have found a user manual for you. What would you like to know about it?
Okay, cool. Now scroll until you find the section about the brakes.
Sure thing. Looking for that page now.
I think I stripped this screw. Can you go on YouTube and find a video for how to fix that?
Of course. I'm opening YouTube now. This looks like a good video.
Place a rubber band over the head of the screw. Oh, nice. Hey, can you go through my emails with the bike shop and find which size hex nut I need?
Sure. According to the email from Bicycle Habitat, you need a 3/8" hex nut for your sprocket. I've highlighted the correct bin for you.
It seems like I need a spare tension screw. Can you call the nearest bike shop and see what they have in stock?
Yep. Calling them now. I'll get back to you with what they have in stock.
I think my brake pads are wearing down. Can you check the manual again and see if it talks about them anywhere?
According to the manual, if you look on page 24.
Do you want to get lunch? Yeah, give me 5 minutes. Can you finish what you were saying?
As I was saying, if you look on page 24, section 2, you'll see how to replace the brake pads.
Hey, any updates on that call?
Yep, I just got off at the bike shop. They confirmed they have your tension screw in stock. Would you like me to place a pickup order?
Could you show me some examples of dog baskets I can put on my bike?
Sure, I can help you with that. Just give me a moment. Here are some options. I think Zuka would look really great in these.
Wow.
So, Bill, you know how many, I'm not going to say men, a lot of men don't like to follow directions? This is perfect. They don't like to read
Maybe
directions.
that's why I like it so much.
Yeah.
So,
No, but regardless, it really zeroes in on what you need to know specifically, because even if you do read a manual, which all of us it's hard to do, regardless, right? It zeroes in on what you need to know, and it helps you along the line and makes it much easier. So, all joking aside.
Mhm. But if you'll notice, this was a lot more. It actually said, "Hey, I'll call the bike shop. I'll find
Yeah.
out what they got in stock. Hey,
Yeah.
do you want me to place a pickup order for you?" There's just so many aspects that are included in here. The ability to talk with it, the
Hmm.
ability. Okay, it was able to understand what was on its own screen while it's talking to you.
So
So.
I wanted to bring up something quickly here because of maybe not that video, but yesterday I was speaking with someone, an American, um, and she was saying that she didn't agree with a lot of things that Trump did, but the one thing that Americans are pleased about is that he's going to be bringing back manufacturing jobs. We're all going to have jobs.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
and I said, I mentioned about the robotics and things. She said, "Oh no, they're not going to do that. They want Americans to have jobs."
The thing about it is a lot of times Trump says stuff that you just say, well, all the experts say that doesn't work.
Yeah,
And a lot of it here, he's pressured Tim Cook to move the iPhone production back to the States. And the thing is, they said, yeah, we can do that. That's going to push the cost of an iPhone to about $3,500.
right.
I think 3,600, in fact, is what they said.
Yeah,
And the question is here, if we pull that stuff back, moving production overseas, in many cases was to be able to reduce the costs so that we could then compete or make the products available to our population. So our population has become accustomed to buying things at low cost, primarily because it's being manufactured where it costs less to manufacture it. And the general population probably would be very unhappy if all of a sudden here they're having to pay 50%, 100% more for things just so they could be manufactured in the States. Now, having said that, we are going to see the moving of production back to the States. The only problem is it's going to be in fully automated facilities, and that would take place whether Trump did what he's doing or not,
right.
because we moved the production over to low labor cost countries to reduce the cost of the product. If they're now able to produce it using robots and AI cheaper than what the foreign labor costs are, they're going to move it back to save the transportation costs, for example. And but it's not going to have jobs for humans.
So brings me to technology question and the high expectations that U.S. citizens are having that, yay, we're going to have jobs again. We're going to build the middle class, et cetera, et cetera. Like, isn't that wrong to
Well, that goes to the study we just did that says 65% of Americans have no clue about AI. And even the 30% that have moderate awareness are not at all aware of how far the capabilities go and how fast. So the debate that I was having with AI yesterday was, if you go and say to AI, what about job displacement? It'll say, oh, hey, we have to refocus humans on those things that are uniquely human.
Yes.
And they listed things like empathy and emotional intelligence and creativity and things like that. And then I brought out concrete examples, and it said, "Oh yeah, yeah, we see that the studies are showing for example, that most humans prefer the empathy from AI, even when they know it's AI, when they know it's not a human, they still prefer." Something like 62% prefer that
That is a big number.
yeah.
Mhm.
So,
It
62%.
is.
What would people want to buy AI generated film and art? You know, there's a movement against that sort of
yes,
thing.
there is a movement against it, but there's been movements all through history against
Exactly.
things that are new.
AI
And
If
is
if
very much
you if
new.
America has a recession because of AI, then that's obviously going to impact on the UK and Europe. It'll be like
yeah,
a domino effect.
Right, but and unfortunately the tariff situation is just muddying the water. The recession is likely to come when a large percentage
Yeah,
of the
globally,
population,
globally,
yeah, it is going to be,
globally. Yes.
well, it's going to be in the developed countries, according to the IMF. The study they
True.
did is they're expecting that the developed countries are going to be hit the hardest.
Yes.
People with university degrees and higher skill levels are going to be hit the hardest for two reasons. One is because they're higher income, the incentive for companies to replace them is
Yeah.
greater than if somebody's got low income, doesn't cost that much. There's not as much of a incentive or pressure to replace those people. And
Bill, what can I say something?
sure.
The point is, first of all, universally, we all have to accept AI is coming. Whenever, like you are telling us about USA, in Pakistan, or anywhere in South Asia as well, whenever you talk to teacher, they say, no, no, AI is not here for us. AI is not here for mathematics. It may be affecting English as a subject or some area as a subject. Universally, people have to accept that AI is here and it's not going anywhere. After that, you have to find all the solutions. Rather than talking about this thing that recession will come, people will go away, job market will disrupt. First, you have to accept and learn AI
Yeah, no,
globally.
that's very true. But I think here the what we're likely to see is if we see jobs, and there's some very interesting YouTubes out there now for people that have been talking about the job impact that have mentioned about during the recession or during the depression in the 1930s, the maximum unemployment rate in the U.S. was only 14%. And for almost all of
Okay.
the 10 years, it was only around 11%. So that means that kind of a number is enough to create great political turmoil and social unrest.
Yes.
But we're looking here potentially at seeing the unemployment rate for the middle class, the upper middle class, reaching 20% by 2030. And I think the IMF and they indicated 23% of jobs are at risk by 2030. And that was before these newer developments. This was like some point last year. And there's another one of the big studies that they point to that indicated 30% of tasks, of all tasks,
Mm.
are at risk in this time frame. So what you can do is just take any job that you can think of. I mean, teachers is one everybody sort of says, well, we don't have to worry. They'll never be able to replace teachers. But Bill Gates, about a month ago, he pointed out he doesn't think the teaching profession will last even 10 years.
Exactly. He's saying this thing on daily basis. Bill Gates is saying it in so many months, this thing.
But it
Uh-huh.
really
It's very true.
depends on the developmental level of a country. In case if the country is not giving pace and space to the acceptance of AI tools and all that, then it won't be in replacing human beings quickly. If you are replacing in every walk of life at a faster pace, then chances are but there.
Yeah, the odds are there's certain professions that are going to go very fast. We're already seeing the computer programming field.
Yes.
That is going to be probably not survive a year from now. If we look at least the coding aspect, it's changing. You don't the skill that you need today when you go and you study computer science, a lot of the skills are being able to translate the use of functions and code to be able to translate things into code. That part's going away. And the demonstration of Claude is considered to be the best at generating code. There's a video from AI Advantage. If you look it up, AI Advantage is the channel, the YouTube channel name. And he did a video yesterday on Claude 4 and showing the coding. You have to watch. He starts off talking about the writing skills, but then he goes into the code examples. And it's just mind-boggling here how easy with a couple of lines, literally just a couple of lines of code, you can have it create a playable chess game. that you can actually play the video of the chess game, or to be able to create an environment like an adventure game environment where you feel like you're in the middle of this game, walking through scenes and things like that, literally with a couple of paragraphs. And you're able to go in and say, okay, that's good. Now change this. Now change that. Now change this, and literally, you're able to what they call vibe development here. You're able to cause these changes to take place, that to modify the code, to do these crazy things. So, but I want to see. Hold on, I need to find.
So, Bill, the other thing that I'm thinking of, I guess I'm just using the US as an example, but it's probably Canada and Western world. If technology is going to take over as much as the industry is saying, um, there's another rise of another industry that could happen. The one for therapists, for example, because the fear that's happening. I mean, I spoke to two technology people involved in technology. They're like, my job's going to be gone in a year. They already are being their hours are being decreased all the time, and so that whole thing of it's so fast that people didn't have a lot of time to adjust. Like changes in history happen, and I think changes are good. You just kind of have to go with it because change is constant. But there's another sector, or maybe that's what we call it, that can also be on the rise, but people need money to pay for those as well. So, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think the fear factor for a lot of people, they're not taught. Like immigrants are good because they leave their country and go to another country, and it's like, okay, something is totally, and they adjust because they have to, otherwise they can't survive. But most Western people are very rooted in their country, in their ways of life, right? Like they're not used to changes so drastically. So what happens then? Like when you have fear, you have a lot of other issues that comes with it.
Yes, that's true. And that's one of the biggest challenges that's going to be out there is what to do about that people just are not willing to make changes. Excuse me, just let me stop this. Why is it?
We are with question number 3.
Okay, I'm just getting the next demo lined up here. Okay, so I recall here when they were talking about the suicides in the Rust Belt, what they call deaths of despair. And this was before AI, anything of this technology. But they were talking to an airplane repairman who would repair the smaller planes at a regional airport. And he said, "Hey, my whole life I spent to learn I went through the education program and I learned what it took to repair airplane engines." And now they came out and they have this new kind of an engine that uses a new technology in it. And they're expecting me to go and learn all over again. No way, I'm not going to do that. That's unfair that they change the technology that would require me to no longer be able to do my job. And so that's an example. There's no way out for somebody like that because this is why the UN 2 years ago, during the General Assembly, when they had that education transforming education summit, that they said, look, the education, the primary goal of education has to be to turn everybody into a successful lifelong learner. And some of the maybe it's a little extreme, but I was watching here a projection, and that they basically said within 5 years, the typical cycle of a job that people will have to totally re-educate themselves every 3 months. Every 3 months. And I'm sure you go to people who hated school, hated education, and were just so happy to get out of school. And now you're telling them, no, you got to go to school again every 3 months.
But you
That
could look at it a different way. School, you're in a box, technically, and somebody's blah, 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 blah at you, right?
right.
When you're learning on your own, I'm one of those. I didn't like being at school, but I love learning.
Mhm.
And I take courses every single month at a minimum of two on a wide, I mean, I can show you my desktop on a wide range of things. It depends on how you look at it. But what you're talking about is about a job, like being relearning for a job. And that's the mindset that people have to get out of their heads is that the job may not be there.
Right. Exactly. And I think here that love of learning is maybe going to become very different um, if you're able to learn whatever you need to learn very quickly and very easily. This is a good segue. Let me go and show a demonstration of what we've been looking at that's over onto the learning side.
Can you help me out with question number 39 here?
Of course. Is this the problem?
Yes, I don't really understand what to do here.
No problem. Let's take this to the blackboard. The key concept here is optical isomerism.
Got it. But how can I tell if an isomer is optically active?
Optically active compounds require a chiral carbon atom. A chiral carbon is one that is bonded to 4 different groups.
Okay, awesome. That makes sense. So how do I apply that to solve this problem?
Let me walk you through the steps to solve this problem.
Okay, got it. Let me find the structures first.
Sure, no worries. Feel free to show me when you're done.
I found 4 carbon chain structures. Is that correct?
Close, but not quite. There are 4 structures, but you've made a small mistake in the 3rd structure. Can you check your work again?
I can't actually find the mistake. Can you show it to me?
For sure. You added an extra hydrogen bond to the 2nd carbon atom. I'm circling it now.
Oh, okay. Good catch. That's actually really helpful. Thank you. So I think this is where the chiral center is. Can you confirm?
Yes, here is the chiral center. Well done.
Remember the optically active isomer problem we were working on? Can you show me what the 2 chiral molecules actually look like?
Sure. Have a look at the molecular structure. I've created the molecular structures of the 2 optically active isomers, also known as enantiomers of 2-bromobutane.
Thanks for all your help, Astro.
Okay, now we talk about education, and we talk about making it personal, and maybe making it to be that you can be an independent learner, not necessarily needing a human instructor. What are your thoughts?
Timing, availability.
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to be a major thing when we talk about leaving no one behind. And it's not only going to be a question for education and the like. I had a discussion with somebody from Togo in Africa, and we said, what is the likely impact going to be of the automation in the developed countries? And they're pulling their production into their own countries or putting production closer to the consumers. And between that and the loss of jobs that are going to result in a reduction in remittances of foreign nationals working in a country who are sending money back to their home country. that the impact would be a 30% reduction, 25 to 30% reduction in the GDP of Togo within a very, very short time. So we see for the global South in particular, there's a huge risk that they're just going to be cut out of the world. Basically, the world will divide into two entire worlds. And
But
the question,
you have
what do
just
we do about it?
you have used one particular phrase, leaving no one behind.
Yeah.
This is one of the most important thing right now when the world is going to divide into two parts, and we have to address this thing that leaving no one behind. Secondly, universal basic income could be one of the solution to all these things, but it is not the ultimate solution. But leaving no one behind should be the main slogan while adopting AI in
Yeah.
both the world and
And
investment.
And we, Joan and I, for example, are part of a group that's been exploring the kinds. We call it a supplementary income because it was defined back in the 1980s. But the key thing here is it's a form of universal basic income. Now, the risk that we have is if the impact is immediately felt stronger in developed countries because you have more knowledge workers that are at risk. There's a risk that they may go and make national universal basic income solutions. And they've got here a per capita GDP of, let's say, $50,000, $60,000 to work with. And you go to countries in sub-Saharan Africa that may only have $2,000, $3,000 per capita GDP to work with, that it's going to make a permanent division because if you no longer have the means to earn money, and your only source of money is that universal basic income, once that's locked in, how do you change it? And so this is why it's so important. We had the UN had the meetings the week before last on financing for development, where the discussion has finally turned to, hey, what are we going to do when development no longer means jobs and income? For humans, because that's been the model we followed for so long, to assume that if we can develop the underdeveloped countries, they'll have jobs and they'll have income, and that's going to result in a reduction of inequality uh, and poverty. But if there's no jobs coming from development, regardless of where it's done, then that model doesn't work. So we're going to have to come to some kind of a universal basic income, or whatever we want to call it. There's got to be a different model for income than we've had until now, one that's not based on human labor. And we have to make sure that that's done in an equitable fashion for everybody in the world, because once you say that's your level of income, how do you change it? There's no way to change it because there's no way to change the amount of resources and income. And why should it be that if you happen to be born on a piece of land that's got oil under it, you're rich? And if you're born on a piece of rocky land that doesn't even have dirt to grow vegetables, then that's it for you too. You're just stuck. Why? The person who is born on the land with the oil under it, they didn't create the oil. So the question is, how do we come up with a fair and equitable way to share the resources of the world? Because they don't belong to somebody just because your people pushed off the people that happened to be living there before. So now that's yours. This is going to be one of the big debates going forward, that AI is going to be pushing at or forcing this debate to happen a lot faster, of how do we create more equality, especially since it's going to be happening at a time that AI is going to promote inequality. Because as people lose their jobs and income, the companies and the owners of those companies are going to potentially have even more or a greater share of the wealth. So we've got these pressures that are going to be creating inequality. At the same time, we have to find as a society solutions that are going to reduce inequality and create more fairness in the distribution of the benefits of all the technology, but also the distribution of natural resources and things.
And the challenge is how do you get people to care about the well-being of others?
Yes.
Which, it's so well, that's a challenge, but it can work. I mean, at the end of the day, I think human beings really care about each other. It's just the system that has put us against each other. I don't know. Maybe I'm an idealist. I am an idealist. So,
You are indeed. People love to be greedy and gather things to
oh,
themselves, and they don't care about others as much as you and I do.
yeah,
Yeah, but there's going to be here. I think AI is going to cause a couple of things. One of the things that we've seen, and there's a very good book by Robert Putnam from Harvard University called "Bowling Alone" that talks about the breakdown of community, and it has to do because of the mobility that the car enabled, that the TV enabled the window on the world, so one became more aware of the rest of the world outside their community. And the net result is that when you go into more populated areas, I've in where I live in New Jersey, our Rotary district, we have in our district we have a county that's more rural northwestern New Jersey and a county that's just across the river from New York City, and they both are roughly the same size, but the one near New York has 6 times the population, but they have the same number of Rotarians. And the question was, well, why do we have only 1/6 as much of the population getting engaged in Rotary in this more populous area? And I did some studies into it, and what I found was that in the rural community, the majority of the people living there today, that's where they grew up. They stayed in the communities that they grew up in. And in the community, the county near New York City, almost no one living there today grew up in the county where they live. So most of the people there, they don't even know their neighbors. And that's me. I commuted here over an hour a day all the time I've lived here. I've lived here 38 years. I think I know the names of 2 neighbors. And because I've through my work and through my involvement in a number of things, I've developed circles that are around the world or elsewhere. And even my family. My sister lives in France. I live in the United States. My son lives in Germany. This gets into this whole subject matter of anywhere people versus somewhere people. But when AI eliminates a lot of jobs, one of the things that really has broken the community down was this idea of people going to universities. Because when you go to university, you usually go away from where you're living. You go to university, when you graduate, the recruiters come and they recruit you to anywhere. And you go there, so your focus tends to be job oriented, career oriented, and not the community. So it's very interesting when I attend Rotary meetings of the Rotary Club in the town next to me, that the interesting thing is to watch all the people, the adults that are in the club. Most of them are in their 40s and 50s, and they all are mentioning about how they all went to the same high school in that town. And then we have this part in the beginning of every meeting where everybody talks a little bit about their family, what's going on. And it's invariable. They all point out about, oh, our kids are doing so well. They live in California. They live in Texas. They live in Georgia or North Carolina. In other words, the generation that's currently in the Rotary Club, they are all community oriented. They grew up there and they have a feeling of sense of community. And their
yeah.
kids are not going to feel that. Their kids are no longer near each other. I have a sister. I don't have a sister. I don't have let's see, family members. I don't have any near family members that are living within 500 miles of me.
But does it depend on your cultural upbringing in some sense? So my husband was brought up, he's Canadian, and his family came at 1865, around that time on both sides of the family to Canada, mostly from Europe, Ireland, Germany, and he's actually found out he's English, not Irish. But anyway, we're investigating that because the company went down anyway, so we wonder if there was a mistake. Anyway, when we went to Ireland, he didn't, he was happy to be there. I was probably more happy than him because I like fairies. So, I was so happy to be there because I exposed my daughter to both sides. But he didn't feel connected to Ireland. When I went to Hyderabad, which my family is not from, but it was India because we always talked about India, I felt so connected to it. And so it was for a conference, and there were other, it was a specific conference we used to have to go for 3 times a year. And I spoke to the other, we call them Indians, you're supposed to say South Asian in Canada. There was somebody from Trinidad, somebody from Guyana, somebody from Madagascar, South Africa, Kenya, and myself. So 6 different East Indians from different countries. Wherever the British Empire went, that's where Indians went. Every single person had exactly the same response. And it was incredible. So I started to think about that. And so one of the things that I saw was like a grandmother walking in her traditional clothes, and there's a little girl walking with shorts and a top. And I swear to you, it was like deja vu. That's how I it was like I saw myself in that walking. But when I was brought up, there was a strong sense of family, of being connected to the family, being connected to and respecting the older generation. And my husband says he wasn't brought up like that.
Mhm.
It's about how he pursued his life. So I'm just wondering, is it how you're brought up, or is it just personal, or
Mhm. No, I think here, my mother grew up. She had her mother and her mother's 3 sisters all live within 2 blocks of one another
yeah,
in Brooklyn, New York. So here in the middle of the city, but they were all living. In fact, there were 8 family units in um 4 sets of 2 family brownstones there. And when she was in high school, there was a total of 11 cousins that were all within
yeah.
that 4 year bracket. They're all in the same age. And up until that, the family was very tight knit. I mean, everybody had to gather at
Mhm.
grandmother's for Sunday dinner and
Yeah,
so forth. It was very, very tight knit. Then my mother's generation, then there were cars. And the first one is one of my aunts moved from New York up to Albany area. Then my family moved up to Connecticut. My parents moved to Connecticut. Then the my uncle's family, they moved out to Western Pennsylvania, and the other cousins ended up in Louisville and
yeah.
literally all over the world. So the car really made this the focus on the jobs specialization. As jobs became more specialized, that caused people to be more focused on their profession and their career, and there were fewer opportunities local for a narrow career. So prior to that, here, people, if they lost their job, they did another job in the community. It didn't make any difference what the profession was. It was that's what was available. But as I say, once people started going to college, there are very, very few people that go to a university that's right near where they grew up. In fact,
So here's the thing, though. I've met cousins in the last year that I never met in my whole life. Never had any even communications with them in the UK because I just came back from the UK, and it was, I swear, it was like we grew up together.
oh,
We
absolutely,
understood each other so well.
yeah,
The point I'm really trying to make is like in the future, if we're going to be so distant, like you said, cars had a lot to do with it because we're now thinking we can travel. Um, that we have to make this sorted effort to connect to our families and to our friends.
yeah, I think that's going to come because it wasn't the car that caused us to move. It was the jobs, and the car enabled us to now take jobs that were tied to
Right,
what our
right,
skills were. And
right.
now, if the jobs are gone, people are not going to go to universities, especially if I've got the ability to learn everything I
Yeah,
ever wanted to know.
yeah,
So people are going to stay in their community. So I think we are going to see a rebirth of the idea of community. And as people
yeah,
no longer have to work to survive,
yeah,
what we're going to see is people will pursue their passions. I think we're going to return to having a lot more clubs. In the up until the mid 1960s, things like Rotary and Lions and all these club types and bowling clubs. The reason that Robert Putnam's book is called Bowling Alone was that we saw in the middle of the 19 up until the middle of the 1960s, if you wanted to go bowling, you had to join a bowling league because the bowling leagues had all the spots reserved in the bowling alleys. But after the middle of the 1960s, when people started to move around and they no longer had as much available discretionary time, they couldn't participate in the leagues, so they started bowling alone. And this is the whole thing of his book was everybody started to do their own thing. So now people in the suburbs, they typically, if they have to downsize or if they have to upsize because of kids or kids to go to a particular school, it's nothing. I'll move. And when they move, they move based on work. They move based on the availability of a house in the price range they're looking for, or where the schools are, or whatever. And so this is why people don't end up living in the communities they grew up in. And they typically end up living in a community, working in another community, worshiping in yet a third community, maybe where they used to live, and shopping out on the highways that are between communities, if you would. So that caused all of the social capital to break down in communities. And I do believe here that the odds are very good we're going to see a rebirth of that when the job is not the number one priority in your life. And
I
so
want to
that's
add just
why,
one idea,
pardon?
Bill, and this is a great conversation. I just want to add one idea that
Mhm.
by having the flexibility to work at home, work wherever you wish, live wherever you wish, um, people will, the family relationships, the unity of family, the intergenerational connections of family have broken down.
Yes.
yeah.
So people will be able to form friendships or social replacements however they wish, whether it's on Instagram and TikTok, whether it's with neighbors, whether it's with an affinity group on a particular subject. They're going to form relationships to fulfill that human desire to be connected
Yeah.
in new ways, in unusual ways. Normal behavior will change. What we think of as normal today will be expanded.
Okay.
It's going to be a bizarre world.
Mhm. Yes, yes. And but it will
What
have
I
some,
perceive,
yes.
it's going to be a reversal of the scenario. Like the lost paradise will no more be a lost paradise. It will be a paradise found, and the wastelanders will no more be in the wasteland of like emotions, and where like it's going to be a world where human beings will be back to
Mhm.
their originality, to the connections, the feeling, to emotions, and they will be able to find time to sit together to gain strength from the real sense of emotions when the jobs will be handed over to machines. Machines will be busy in their work, and human beings will be busy in their human connections. So to
Yeah.
me, it's something paradoxical. In reality, we don't perceive it like that, but I feel in real sense of words, it's going to be like that.
Yeah, I
That's
think
good.
I think here that this is why a lot of the technology leaders say we're heading towards paradise on Earth, where people are freed from the need to work for survival. And then they'll be able to turn to what their passions are. But there is a risk. One huge risk. In this, the author Harari points out that AI is becoming a better human than humans. And as a result, a lot of humans are finding they prefer to interact with AI than with other humans. And so we see this used to be called CHAR, short for character.ai. It's I think it's now just called C.AI. I'm not sure, but that had it was the fastest growing segment of AI usage. A year ago, it was already over 300 million users, and a lot of people that's their best friend. That's their because you're able to define this person's this AI is a tutor. This AI is my friend. This whatever. This AI shares this hobby with me. And so when you interact, because the AI is trained to please you, so the you have a much more rewarding feeling when you've interacted with the AI than you might have from an individual human, because the AI has learned from all the humans in the world in history how to be the most pleasing companion. And so this is going to be part of our challenge. But I do think the opportunity to restore community feelings is going to be the highest it's ever been. Now, at the same time, we have to figure out how do we keep schools alive? Because if you look at what we just saw in the ability to enable people to learn, and imagine now we're another year. Keep in mind, we're not even 2.5 years into AI. ChatGPT was first introduced less than 2.5 years ago. So looking at the pace that we've seen in these 2.5 years, imagine where we're going to be in 2.5 years. And that's only half the way between now and 2030. So now imagine with twice the amount of time between now and 2030 as we've already experienced, and the fact that the AI evolution is accelerating. It's not staying linear and the same. It's accelerating. So this puts us in a situation where we can't even really imagine what we're going to be able to have, that everybody will know exactly what they need to know. Maybe these Australian skull caps that they've developed that can actually, we've got text to image, text to voice, where you actually have brain waves to text, if you would, where it's able to read your mind. And as a result, you're able to just think as your interaction with AI and communicate without having to say a word. That if we're there in 5 years, what does that mean to society? What does society look like? I have no idea.
But that creates a tremendous isolation because I'm dealing with the world through a device. I'm not dealing with other people.
Yeah.
So no one else is sharing that knowledge, that experience with me.
Yep, exactly. And when we think about it, one of the most valuable things we see when we think about things like divorces and things like this, and I see friends or people that are getting divorced, and I think here, what you're losing is somebody, the only other person maybe in this world that has so many shared experiences with you, and you can't get that anywhere else. And if we start looking and saying, okay, well, I'm doing all my interaction because this AI, boy, it knows me inside and out. It laughs with me. It does everything with me. That's going to become potentially very addictive, and we've got to figure out how we're going to deal with that. Yes, Dennis, glad to have you with us again today.
Thank you, Bill. This conversation is very reassuring because what comes to mind is that AI, as it is personified, was and is created by man. And because of the realization we are having now, doesn't it seem as though we are ready to modify the impact of AI in human relations so that it does not control us, but we have the strength of its enabling us. So we have to not allow AI to seem to be in spite of us. It is because of us.
Yeah.
And therefore, we must not look at AI as though it is our master and we have no control.
Yeah, that's good, and we want that. But it's very interesting if we listen to some of the key players. Like there's one of the key researchers from OpenAI leaked a paper about 6 months ago, or you listen to Mo Gaudet, who was one of the founders of the current AI when he was working at DeepMind in the UK. That The feeling is that we are about to lose control over the development of AI. There's been a big push. There's a huge push going on to make AI be self-improving, so that whatever flaws, we've already done this for hallucinations and things like this. And I think it was either last week or the week before I presented for the Gemini deep research, how it works, how it goes and figures out what you're looking for. And it'll go out and gather up from maybe 30, 40 different websites or sources. It'll gather up information. It analyzes that information, figures out what else it needs to know or what does it need to confirm. And it will go back, it'll formulate for itself new queries, internal queries, and it will go out and go to another 40, 50 websites and do research on those additional items. And then it comes back, it analyzes that, figures out what it concludes out of all of that, and then it will define new pieces of information it needs to know. And it will do the same thing. It figures, I need to know this stuff, comes up with a plan how it's going to learn that, goes out and it does another round. And I demonstrated for one query that I did, I captured 14 generations of how it went until it got to the point that its latest round out there could not discover any new information that it had not already discovered. By that time, it had gone through something like 296 sources. And I had a recent one that went through more than 495 sources. So it's going around and around, and it's self redefining what has to be done for the next step as it
But
goes
but
through.
but there it is. Back to the source. AI is not without source. And therefore, the aspect of it, what you call improving and growing, it's obvious, it's okay. However, it requires source input and source intervention to enable it to continue.
No, that's the big clue. Maybe you've heard from the head of NVIDIA, started about 6 months ago, that they are using AI to generate scenarios that never happened, that but could possibly happen. Or if we look back to the way AlphaGo, to be able to design the Go game that beat the best human Go player. That they just said, "Hey, go out there, play a million games, play a million Go games, and try every different combination. Ones that humans would say, no, that never can work, but just go and try them all, and then throw out the ones that are obviously not working, and keep narrowing it down, so that now AI is actually able to come up with truly original thought that no human ever concluded." That just was too far crazy out there that nobody would connect or realize that are related. So this is being used, for example, in medication, drug discovery, where they can go out there and do millions and millions of chemical combinations, and then see which ones have which results. Because of this, in many areas, we are getting original ideation coming out of AI that we never had before. So some call it synthetic data. If you're looking at self-driving cars, where they can create all these scenarios that nobody ever observed or were captured in real life, and use that to train the automation and train the AIs. So there's a company in Japan um, that created a tool. I think it's called AI Scientist. And they're going through these processes of doing things that are resulting in coming up with ideas of how to make it possible for AI to do things that the human designers had never even contemplated trying to do because they thought it was too far out. And so AI scientist has been sort of making waves now for about a year. But all it's going to take is one breakthrough that enables the AI self-improvement to become autonomous and go through maybe 1,000 generations in 2 hours, or 10,000 years worth of development in one day. That's the one of the big dangers out there where we lose control over what's happening with AI in general. Yes, Michael.
Yes, thank you very much, Bill. This is a interesting topic you're talking about, and you mentioned where AI is being used in medical purposes. I'd wanted to get some clarification from you about AI in military hardware, for example. When these militaries are using their gadgets to, for example, eliminate someone. I'm not sure, but I think AI is involved, and there are incidences where they have made some successes, and incidents where they have miscalculated or done wrong or hit the wrong target. Yeah. Is AI used in such with military activities?
100%. Every major country is investing like crazy in weaponizing AI. And they all claim, no, it should be forbidden, it should be banned. But while they're all saying that to stop it, all the others, they're moving forward as fast as they can because the biggest fear they have is some geopolitical adversary would get advanced AI weaponry before they do, or before they're able to defend against it. In drones, you see here the speed with which drones are being evolved. There is some rumors that we see the humanoid development becoming so realistic. I predict within 5 years, Elon Musk says 2 years. I say 5 years. We're going to have humanoid robots walking among us that you will not be able to tell who's biological human and who's a robot humanoid. It's getting that good. You can already go to Japan and China. China is now leading the world in the development of humanoid robots, and you can see that at the big trade shows they have on this, how far this is becoming. In Japan, you have, when you go into a store, you usually got the greeters at the door that's greeting everybody as you walk into the store. Probably, I would imagine a number of those stores, those are now robots, that the skin and the eyes twinkle and twitch, and you really can't tell the difference. That is only going to get dramatically better in a very, very short time. There are, I think it's the Xiaomi in Japan has one huge factory that's called a lights out factory, that it produces one high-end smartphone per second. No, wait, maybe it's minute. Maybe it's minute. And so it produces every minute one of these smartphones. And of course, it does that 24/7. And the reason they call it lights out, there's no lights there because there's no humans working there. It's totally automated. And there's a car factory that's being built by one of the major manufacturers that's pretty much all automated. And Elon Musk's Tesla factory in the United States is almost completely automated. So we're going to see more and more of this capability with robots. I saw a video.
Just one thing, Bill, I just wanted to mention about the weapons thing. That everyone says, oh, it should be for good and all this kind of stuff, which I mean, why can't we do that now without the robots? But anyway, two examples of instead of people talking and trusting each other, which I don't know how we would get there, so don't ask me. I'm an idealist. I wish people would just trust each other. But this whole robotics and weapons thing is a power game, and countries want power. So
Absolutely.
how do you get them out of that mindset? Because they have to defend. I mean, Iraq, the Iraqi people said they were it was said that they had weapons of mass destruction and they had nuclear weapons. I think Israel told the US that. They said if we had it, do you think the US could have invaded us? Right? So
Oh
like
no,
just
the
based on
U.S.
that. But
admitted.
just one second. And like there's a series called Game of Thrones, and they were getting all ready, fighting against each other, getting ready for this night soccer, I think it was. Winter's coming. And all they did was the other side, they just stole their dragon and away they go. 9/11, the US spent $750 billion. What did they do? They used the planes of the US. Like human ingenuity, like Bill, what I'm saying is that you can spend all the money, get all the defense, human ingenuity will find a way,
Yeah, and
right?
that's why they never stop spending. They always are increasing. Eric Schmidt, the former CEO and chairman of Google, is currently an advisor to the defense of the United States, and he has said tanks. It's ridiculous to build these tanks that cost tens or hundreds of millions of dollars because AI can now knock these tanks out and with drones and nothing flat. So he was saying how they're working on drones, and I've seen a video. I just have no proof of whether it's real or not, but supposedly it was a video that was used to make a demonstration to some part of the Department of Defense that showed smart bullets, and it showed how these smart bullets, even after they got fired, if the target moved, the bullet would change its trajectory to still hit the target. And so it's almost like putting somebody's name on a bullet and you just fire it off and it'll find that person and kill them. So there's no doubt in my mind that people are working like crazy on that. And to me, the only solution to that is we've got to merge all the countries of the world together so that hey, we are one country, and we work to our mutual benefit. I think AI is going to cause that because we're going to get down to the point that if you happen to be living, like I say, on the land that has got valuable minerals or whatnot under it, you're rich. And if you are born on poor land and no clean water and no good transportation capabilities, tough luck. Uh, that's going to have to be resolved. China has done it in that they have said, look, if you're living in an area we cannot provide services to. We can't provide medical services. We can't provide educational services. You need to move, and the land is not a land that can produce for you, doesn't have water access, it's lacking all these things. There's the only option is you got to move to a place that's more conducive to our being able to provide you equitable services. And this has been one of the biggest things China did that reduced the percentage of their population living in poverty. And some people said, well, it's totally unfair that they got forced into moving all the people were forced to relocate. But you have to look at the way they did it. In the United States, we have this thing called timeshares, where people in resort communities build like these hotels, and you can go and buy a couple of shares. So you buy like a 3-week block or a 4-week block that you own in those in that hotel, so you can take your vacation there every year. Well, to get people to buy, what they do is they invite people and say, "Hey, come on, spend a free weekend down here," and they wine and dine them and try to get them to sign a contract. And That's more or less what China did. They said to people living in those remote communities, "Hey, come on down here. We've built this new neighborhood in this more urban area. Come down here and say you have running water, you got sanitation, you got refrigerators, you got flat screen TVs, you've got internet access. All of this stuff is available to you. Come here." And people went down, spent the weekend or the week or whatever the time frame was, and then they said that you can stay here and we will actually help you get trained and help you get a job and all this type of stuff. And it was interesting. Most of the elderly people said, "No, I love my village. I want to go back to my village." And most of them did. They went back to their village. But most of the younger people, their kids, said, "No, we want to stay here. Look, we got all these modern amenities, and we have access to education and great health care and all this good stuff here. We want to stay here." And they stayed there. And the older people that went back to their village quickly realized their village wasn't much fun anymore with no young people. And so most of those the older people that had gone back to their village ended up going back to the city. And to help those communities integrate, they would have like apartment blocks of apartments that they would make sure all those people were from the same rural area, so that they still had their sense of community there. And that's what's helped them be so successful in being able to reduce health problems, raise education. All the people that are of working age were able to find jobs in those communities, which those jobs never would have been able to move to those rural communities. And so it's fascinating if you can study some of the examples of how China created these poverty managers that, okay, you're responsible for this geographic area. Your job is to get everybody in that area out of poverty. And it led to that kind of a relocation. Anyway, I don't even know what led me off on that tangent, but um, uh, going back, if we go back to the last video I showed, where the girl was able to have her companion be able to see exactly what she was doing. It's almost like saying here, "Okay, I'm going to help you learn to do long division." And so I have on my piece of paper, I've got my example I have to do, and I start writing. I start saying, explaining, "Okay, the first thing I got to do is I have to see how often does this number fit into this other number." And then I'm going to write that result of that up here, and I'm doing that. And in the process of me writing a number, I write a 7, let's say, and it comes back and says, "Are you sure that's 7? What makes you think it's a 7?" And then you say, "Well, because 7 times 36 is this, and that fits inside of that." "Oh, you made a mistake in your multiplication," type of thing. So in other words, it can see in real time what you're doing, and it can say, "Hey, stop. We are moving away very quickly from AI that only reacts to your prompts to AI that will basically initiate its own prompts, and it will initiate the communication with you on things." That is starting to come. I've seen examples of that already on language training and on other education, where you say the one I described earlier, in fact, where the person wanted to pass a test on something, and it said, "Hey, at every day at 6 o'clock, I want you to teach me one new component here and then test my understanding of it." So at 6 o'clock, and that's done with the ChatGPT tasks mode. So anyway, yeah, Malik, you have a question.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Very good, very good. Glad to have you with us today.
Yes, sir. Sir, I had a question. Sir, as you know, a few months prior, Microsoft announced their Myrona One chip. You know how it revolutionized the quantum computing sector? Sir, how did this Myrona One chip impact or help AI?
That I can't. I'm not that strong on the hardware side. I do know here that yeah, they came up with the chip, but at the same time, they are still buying huge numbers of chips. NVIDIA still is in the forefront there. We got was it the Tensor chips from Google? You've got the M series chips from Apple. They're all moving into this area. The only one I know of, and I don't remember the name of the chip. Oh yeah, it's Grok. It's Grok, but spelt different from the Elon Musk's Grok AI. But it's that chip. The main difference is GPUs they tend to have still a single path to the data. When data is brought into the central processing unit and then is going to be processed, even if you're using a GPU and it brings in multiple sets of data, it brings the data in through a single channel, and then it can do, if it's a GPU, it can do multiple in parallel. If it's a CPU, it does them serially. But this Grok chip, what they did was they increased the number of paths, so it could go out there and grab like 100 pieces of data at once and bring them into the processing unit. And so that shortened the amount of time considerably. So their demonstrations were mostly on speech synthesis and showing here that they could have the almost like real-time human to human speech way before advanced voice from ChatGPT came out. But other than that, I don't know enough about the mechanics. There's there is a channel, a YouTube channel, I think it's Anesthesia on Tech. And she studies particularly what's happening with the chips, with the hardware side of things. And she's very good at that and being able to say where the companies are at, what their architecture is going forward, and what the timelines are. So you might want to take a look at that. Anesthesia and Tech.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I will.
Yes. Um, Anyone else want to comment on what we saw that girl doing with the technology? If you want to try some of that stuff out, the place you can actually do it, and it's free, is go to aistudio.google.com, and you can if oh, there's a couple of things there. Actually, you know what? I am going to do a little demo here on that regard. Um, AI Studio, where did I have? AI Studio, here we go. Okay. Here's some of the things that are new. You can have this audio to audio dialogue, native speech recognition, native image generation, and so forth. When I go into things like this is in chat mode, but I can go to stream. And when I run stream, I can share my screen. I can just talk to Gemini Live. I can do my webcam. And I tried this. I'm sharing this screen right now, and we saw last time trying to share a screen inside a shared screen doesn't necessarily work so well, but it's very easy to try out, and there are a ton of YouTube videos in there how to use this type of thing. But this is what you saw, and part of what the girl was doing there, where it was she shared her screen, and it was showing what it could generate there. Then we get this generate media type stuff, and you can generate images, speech generation, and here is the VO type of thing. And if I go into VO and we just say this, um, What was it? Okay, I don't know. Okay, I said have it squeaking. Don't know if it's going to do that part of it because this is only VO2 and VO2 doesn't do sound. But so this shows us how long it's been running. So we're at about 10 seconds in so far. This could be between a minute and 2 minutes. Over on the right-hand side here, you can see you can generate a lot of things right now. I've got it set at 8 seconds. My aspect ratio, I can say how many results. I only have one. I could go and have four. I could have it, it'll make four different videos side by side. What's the resolution? How many frames per second? And then I could turn around here. I could have given a negative prompt and say, but don't include black mice or whatever. So here we see, how long did that take? That was like 30, 40 seconds. So how realistic is that?
Yes, absolutely wonderful.
It's what I asked for, isn't it?
Awesome.
So now imagine if you're doing this with the version the ultra version, I
Paid
would.
version.
Pardon?
Paid one.
Yeah, well, this is I'm in a paid one too here, but I only paid it $20 a month. Right now, it will cost you I think $126 per month for 3 months. You can only use it for 3 months to get VO3, where I could have said have the mouse talking to a cat and where the mouse is squeaking and the cat is meowing, and you see subtitles underneath of the translation into whatever language you want. I mean, you can do crazy, crazy, crazy stuff there with those capabilities. So and so here we even see now you can create here your own music. So this is in sort of in the direction of Suno. If you haven't listened to Suno, you don't know what you're missing. It is just mind-boggling what you're able to do there. When we go into the build functionality here, you can create basically creating apps. So I can create a voice chat. I can simulate it. I can create a DJ type of a thing. I can generate the music with that. You can do just so much of this stuff with the creating powered code reviews. You can start from a template here. So you can go through all these different examples here and try this out. But this is getting into the agent side of things to be able to generate web apps, and you can generate. Let's see here, recent apps if it's limited to my apps only, or what other people are doing. Looks like it's only limited to my stuff. Okay, so our showcase. So let's see if I
Sorry, Bill, I have to go somewhere by 12, so I have to go get ready. So, are we going to connect before Monday?
Yeah, I'm gonna send out. I talked to Lasinka about Memorial Day. She would like to go forward, and I said I can't because I've got a pre-date because it's Memorial Day.
Yeah.
If you're not available, then I think we should just go ahead and still we just postpone it to next week.
Yeah, I'm available, but I realize that it's a holiday. But if you want to discuss anything regarding the document, let me know, okay?
Yeah, okay, okay, I'll do that.
Bye,
Okay,
everyone. Sorry I have to
bye.
go.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have
bye,
a good
John.
day.
Bye,
Happy
Joe.
weekend.
Bye.
Okay, so here's an example of with music where you can
Hmm.
create these different kinds of music you can add to it. I'm trying to see where is the thing that I have to click to get it to start playing. Reload the app. Somewhere's here there's something. It may be that it's down below and I can't share that part of the screen. So here's something you just say that you just go in and say, hey, I want an application that does this. It generates all the code for your application. Look at all that code that just got generated from a simple prompt, and it generated this music pult where you can go in and increase the kinds of sounds and so forth and make this thing play. Somehow you make it play. Um, I just wish I knew where that was. No, okay. So can't demonstrate that. So that's not going to do anything. But the idea is you can create all kinds of music on that. And how do I get out of this thing now to get back to where I was? Okay. So sometimes you need to have an API key to do this stuff, and it gives you the documentation of how it did it, how it works, and the like. Okay, but that's going to take too long to get there. Oh, okay. So I was trying to get to one of these things that would have a preview that actually is working. Oh, maybe this. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
We hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the AI to hear me. Oh, it looks like it's hearing me now. Hello, who are you? No, not necessarily doing anything. Okay. So, I'm getting a message. My internet connection is unstable. So we'll stop sharing that. Probably as soon as I stop sharing,
So,
it'll start talking. So anyway,
excuse me for
we've
interrupting, but
yeah,
can I make a request? Because I too have to
sure,
go to another
sure.
meeting. This stuff is just amazing and wonderful, and it's evolving and it's complex. It would be really helpful if either this club or the AI Fellowship could send out a request to, let's say, Rotaract or young professionals or engineers to come assist us.
Yes,
Somebody who could say, here's what I have in mind, here's what I've done so far. Can you extend it with an agent? Can you make it more automatic? Can you make it more personal?
we actually have a group that we started here the week before last called the Dare to Be Great Youth Council. And we've got members from about 5 or 6 countries, youth members, typically high school students. And the goal is for them to become experts in using these technologies to figure out how to solve major problems, which could include that people say, hey, we're trying to do this or this. How can we do that? Because that gives them an opportunity to learn something and to grow. And so we're just starting. They haven't made the poster yet, so that we could reach out. We're thinking to reach out to Interact clubs and say, hey, who wants to become an expert in artificial intelligence, but also become an expert in solving major world problems, coming up with problem solutions. And
And that's great at the high school level. It'd be a fabulous learning opportunity. I wish I was a high school student again so I could do that. But I'm thinking of someone more advanced at the college engineering graduate level, maybe, who really understands these tools and can extend them for us.
you would be amazed because I'm finding here that even a lot of college professors who are teaching AI are really very poorly up to date because
Right.
they're working here off of a the curriculum. The universities sort of feel, hey, when you signed up to our computer science program, this is what we promised we would deliver, and we have
Right.
there's this sense we have this obligation to deliver that, even if it's out of date. I ran into that because I was a course sequence coordinator at Purdue, and so I designed my programs. In fact, we were, I think, the first university in the country to start using computer-based training to train on computer technology. And but the school was not, they couldn't, they didn't have any control over me because I left the CEO position of a major international company to go and give them time at a university, so they had no control over me. But when I left, because I only could afford to take that vow of poverty for a couple of years, if you would, I was able to pick my successor, but my successor didn't have that luxury that I have of not needing to have a job or whatnot, and so the school put a lot of pressure on him to fit into the traditional mold, if you would.
Right. Right.
And so this is a challenge. I'm finding here that there are people at the high school level that are more knowledgeable on the use of the tools than a lot of people at the university levels.
Yeah, I imagine that's true. The teaching staff. I'm thinking more of the students,
No,
the
no, I'm
ones
thinking of
who.
students, the students as well. The high school students, you've got, especially in the United States, but I'm finding in Mexico, for example, the high school students, boy, they're living in YouTube, and they are figuring out, and they grab and try all this stuff up. You know, you have to see a 16-year-old girl in Rwanda. She can talk circles around what you can do and can't do versus a lot of university students because they jump on and do it. A lot of university students feel they're under time pressure to complete their assignments and do the things at the university level. And a lot of the high school students, if you're a really top high school student, your class is usually running at such a slow speed, you're not putting any time into your high school academics. You don't need to. And
Right.
so these
Right.
kids, it's like a hobby, and so they're experimenting like crazy. So this is why we originally were looking to start with the university level, but we're finding here now it's the high school level, and I met some young people participating in Model UNs not too long ago that were 12 and 13 years old, and it's amazing. And if you participate in any of the Digital Pakistan conferences that they hold, there's a girl, I think she's only 9 or 10, that actually speaks at the events there, and you just sort of say, "Whoa." Well, imagine where that's going to lead to. So it's really fascinating. And if you would like to be involved and mentor, because we're looking for mentors to work with these kids and encourage them, basically to be coach mentors, because we don't really have to be educating them in this stuff. But what we got to do is really encourage them. Hey, shoot for the moon. You can. Why not?
Mhm.
So I see here we're over 2.5 hours into the session again, and I see a lot of people are having to leave.
Yeah.
So is there anything in particular? We didn't talk about Claude. Claude, if you go and look, there's a Claude 4 video from AI Advantage that I encourage, if you want to look more at what that's capable of, that you take a look there. He's showing how in the coding, some of the really incredible things that you're able to do. I think it's less than 20 minutes long, the video. So I would encourage taking a look at that. He also, in another video, highlights most of the advances that came out in with the Google I/O. The one area I didn't really get into a lot, which is the agent, building the agents and search. We are about to see the integration of the Google AI Assistant into the search in ways we've never been able to imagine. You saw a little bit of that in the video example where the guy was trying to fix his bike, and the AI says, "Oh, you want me to contact the store and see if they've got this in stock available?" Or to when it researched to find the dog carriers that you could put on your bike. What it didn't do, it could have continued on that and showed how it actually ordered it for delivery and it'll be there tomorrow, type of thing. I didn't get into that so much. To be honest with you, I felt I haven't really caught up myself that the announcements on Tuesday and Wednesday were just so far reaching. I didn't catch up. If you want to go and look for yourself, I recommend you look at Matt Wolf. Matt Wolf is one. Matt Berman is another. They tend to go and look at the whole spectrum. Wes Roth is another. These are guys that do a very, very good job of knowing what's going on there. The AI grid and AI search and AI foundations. I think those are three other ones that I find really do an incredible job of uh, informing about the latest updates. So they do these summaries. By the way, probably in the next week or so, I'm going to present how you can set up an AI that is going to keep an eye on all the advances and changes that are being announced by all the different sources out there. And every morning will give you a summary of everything new that you need to be aware of. That
I was just thinking of that this morning as we were talking, that I should set up that kind of a search and
Yep,
summarization tool.
exactly. Well, I'm going to provide exactly the step-by-step how to do that.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Michael.
Yes, thank you very much, Bill. Once again, now I work with the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority at the mechanical section, and they maintain vehicles, the company fleet,
right?
And this gadget that it is called I think it's a diagnostic something. They fix it in the vehicle and it reads the defects on the vehicle. A diagnosis computer or something.
Right.
Is it also AI managed, or it is something else?
They've had that kind of a diagnosis tools. It's an onboard computer basically, and you plug it into the reader, and it will read all the critical pieces of information that your engine is sending to that computer. That's been around for quite a long time. It's interesting that I began my first job, official job, was managing the vehicle fleet for basically about 5,000 vehicles with 178 mechanics. But that was a long time ago, long time ago. But at any rate, the I would be surprised if how much AI. I don't think there's that much AI that's built in yet. I do think that's going to come. And I think it's going to come in a way, it's almost like the Internet of Things, that the vehicles, while driving, there's a certain amount already that you can see on your dashboard that certain lights will light up if something is going wrong. If your air filter is clogged up, or it's not getting enough air, or the oil filter, or whatever, or whatever issues might be out there, whether your tire's getting too low or worn. But I think you're going to see that this is going to go to the cloud. So there's going to be a way to be able to capture that information without having to go and plug something into the car that will, or the vehicle will capture that information. So a maintenance shop will get the warning, hey, car number 48 we need to bring that in and fix this before it breaks down without having to actually touch the vehicle. But I don't think it's there yet. You have to keep well, I don't know for sure. It used to be that you'd be able to say, hey, General Motors was far ahead in doing that kind of technology, making it available. I think nowadays it's small third-party companies that are doing that. My son heads up he's one of the executives at the largest manufacturer of car production robots. They build the entire assembly line for factories for car companies, and they automate it all. Um, uh, but I don't, like I say, I don't think that it's that far, other than in some experimental type cars it might be, but not widespread. Sorry, I can't give you a better answer on that. Okay. Oh, you heard me mentioning here about this youth council that we're putting together. What we're trying to do with that is help young people, very exceptional young people, that believe that they can and want to make a big difference and believe they can learn anything, to show them how they can learn anything and dare to be great. The motto of our eClub, our Rotary Club, is the go-to place for those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world, the whole world, and daring enough to try. And so these are like young people who say, "Hey, yeah, that me. I want to be an exceptionalist." And so we're trying to help them build their brand, be able to acquire the skills to go out and interview the world's top leaders, create YouTube channels, to do create YouTube videos of courses on how to do all kinds of things, how diplomats can be more effective in doing collaborative consensus building to come up with solutions to world problems, and things like that. So if you know any young people that are really, they got to be really exceptional. We're talking not even top 1%. We're talking some fraction of 1%. The crazy ones, the ones that are so crazy they think they can do anything. We would be very happy to have them join with these young people from other parts of the world, who will be exploring and taking on and trying to come up with ways to really shake the world up. We don't have a lot of time. I mentioned it's less than 2.5 years since ChatGPT was first announced. And if we think what's capable of today versus where we were 2.5 years ago, that was like the Stone Age in comparison. And imagine now where we're at now, where we're going to be in 2.5 years from today. And then imagine where we're going to be in 2.5 years from then. And that's when we hit 2030. So, we could be 20 times more powerful than where we're at today. And there's a lot of talk that a lot of the big changes in the world are likely to happen before the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027. That's less than 2 years away. So we have to move very, very quick. The idea that oh yeah, well, we can take 10 years, 20 years to accomplish things, that's probably unrealistic today because of the speed with which things are changing. So if you know of any young people, yes.
Yes, I would like to ask a question pertaining to those young people. Is it a must for them to be the part of Rotary Club, Rotaract, or whatever this?
No.
Do they need to join it or
No,
not?
no. It's
Right.
it's just a group of
Right.
crazy young people.
Yes, yeah. If you could travel back 30 years, 30 years back, you could have identified or found me from that group of crazy people who were ambitious
Well,
and
you
who
know, in
had minds
addition
to change the world.
in addition to the kids, we're looking for mentor coaches that would be interested in working with these kids to encourage them to go out there and do amazing things. I have an example
Yes,
here.
yes.
One of the projects that we've been talking about, we did a competition here uh, just before COVID. We did a pilot. It was a competition to see what high school teams could come up with the most outrageously audacious solution ideas to major world problems. It was the Dare to Be Great challenge competition. And so they had to come up with ideas. I think, what does it say? One or more SDG targets. Somewhere's in here. I don't know where it's saying. You know, do you have an idea that would impact 1 million people, type of thing? And
Yes, yeah.
oh, here it is.
I have a group of people who are already working for SDGs, and relevant ideas pertaining to change, or anything which could impart a difference to the world can be introduced. And already we are working on that. And I think, yes, this is exactly the same sort of document pertaining to SDGs. And we have certain achievement targets, certain activities accomplished. And at a larger level, if it is introduced to different schools, community level, across the system, it can be a big achievement on the part of those change makers.
Well, we are looking to make this into a competition that would involve thousands of school teams participating in a tournament where they compete at the local level. The
Yes.
winner goes on to
Yeah.
the next level, regional, maybe the state level, and then on up to all the way up to global level. And we're looking to be able to offer $1 million in prizes along the way. Uh, the uh, the key thing here that we're looking at is we're not looking about how do we come up with the best solutions. That's if we take the Hulk Prize, which is a similar competition, they offer $1 million, but they offer the $1 million to the winning team. Their goal is to help a social entrepreneurship get off the ground. Our goal is not the best solution. Our goal is to maximize the number of young people who are participating in trying to come up with ideas to problems people think are impossible. Because when you think about something that's impossible, you grow so much. And all of a sudden, you start to realize a lot of what you thought was impossible is not impossible. And once you have done one thing that was thought to be impossible, you have redefined the word impossible for the rest of your life. We have a young girl, she was 10 years old when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans in the United States, and she saw all the suffering, and she got a bunch of 10-year-old friends together, and they decided they were going to raise $1 million to help the victims of Katrina. And the most of the adults laughed at them and said, yeah, 10-year-olds. We know about 10-year-olds. And they said, no, we're going to do it by this date. Oh, the date came and went, and they didn't raise $1 million. They raised $10 million. So now she's on all the TV talk shows and saying the same thing. What's all this fuss about? Any random kid could have done it. You just got to try. And so to prove her point, she went home, she raised $10 million again. Now, do you think that girl in the rest of her life will ever be intimidated by the thought that we need to raise $1 million for some cause? Definitely not. So that changes lives totally. Now, as I said, we only did a pilot on this, and the results of the pilot were so impressive that the World Summit of Nobel Peace Prize winners invited the winning team to go to their World Summit that year was being held in Mexico. And so the winning team of 16-year-olds was flown to Mexico and hosted a workshop with 35 Nobel Peace Prize winners being there, and the heads of over 1,000 NGOs being present. That's pretty heady stuff for 16-year-olds. So it just shows what's possible if we can get people to stop believing there are limits to what they can do. So, at any rate, if you, as I say, if you know some young person that you believe is that ambitious and that much belief in themselves, please let me know. We'll try to connect them up with these other young people, and let them change the world. Okay.
Yes, it's their time now.
Yes, absolutely. Well, here's the thing. If they don't take in the reins and shape the future for themselves, they're going to have to live with what my generation's leaving behind. And I don't wish that on anybody.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, with that here, Paul, I don't know quite what you're looking at on the funds. There's basically no funds involved because the coin of the realm, if what we're looking at is, well, if you're looking at funds for this, the idea here, there's 46,000 Rotary clubs around the world, and the idea is to have each Rotary club sponsor one or two high school teams. Might be $25 a team or $50 a team. $50 a team if we had 40,000 schools participating, that would give us $2 million to be able to distribute as prizes. That's the sort of the mindset. Okay, so with that, I thank everybody for your participation and with hanging in there all the way almost to 3 hours. Our meetings are have to be the worst in there in that regard on time. But I think
Thank you, Bill.
yeah, I think the thing about it is the I think it's so important to hear from so many of you that I hope it's worth it. It is to me. Thank you very much, everyone.
It is. Thank you. Sorry, I was like in between. I was busy. Then I rejoined the meeting. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.